So the new album is called Prodigals End. I just got done with my first draft of the artwork for it. Let's see if I can quick bring this up. Phone service is pretty slow when I'm out of town. Not much any time for that matter, to be honest with you. Alright, there we go. Alright, bring it up on my phone. So I'm filming with the tablet, which I made it on the tablet. So not too shabby, other than I'd probably look backwards in that camera. I'll add a JPEG of it towards the end of this video. But the new album is called Prodigals End. It is a concept album, as always. This is the first time I've really sat down to do a video or talk about one of my albums. I usually just type something on my Facebook, but I decided I've got all these cameras around me. Been working really hard on it. Been doing this for 20 years now. So it's time to just kind of sit down, talk about things that I would have wanted to hear, bands talk about when I was starting off, give me a little insight as to what they were doing. So, what happened here with this album is I was recording my 20th anniversary collection because, well, the first Mekanikal Soul demo was recorded in July of 1999. So I wanted to do something for that anniversary. I started on January 1st. I recorded like 30 songs on the computer I had, and then for some reason the software crashed. I was not able to record anything, wasn't able to salvage any of it, and so I was pretty upset about that because I had some pretty good stuff in my opinion. Luckily some of it I had recorded videos for. I did a live performance capture of some of them on New Year's Eve. Instead of going out partying, I just sat at home playing my synthesizers. So I did a live broadcast for my friends on Facebook so they could watch it, so we could kind of party together while I was just at home. That way I didn't have to go out and spend a bunch of money and end up hating myself the next day. Tends to be the case whenever I go out for New Year's Eve, so decided let's break that tradition. And so that's basically what this album was. I was pretty upset about that. Just went through some pretty drastic changes in my life. It's been a rough few years since the last album that I was working on, and so it was time to kind of get rid of some of those demons, so to speak. So I sat down with this new computer that I just picked up and plugged my synthesizer into it, downloaded the software for my synthesizer, and found out, it's not really my style. So went back to doing a live recording with the synthesizers. Then found out the microphone that I usually use to record my guitar amp with was broken. I must have broken in my move to the location I'm at now, and so I just paid car insurance and rent, and I had just bought Les Paul bass guitar, so it's like, okay, well, I can go buy a cheap piece of crap mic. There's some Stag makes. I'm a fan of Stag, but it's like $20. I can go get these standard type microphones, the cardioid style diaphragm ones. But a friend of mine was like, hey, have you ever checked out Guitar Rig? So I checked out Guitar Rig 5, liked it, got it for my computer, started messing with that, and I'm getting, it sounds exactly like how my amp sounds I mic it anyway, so it's like, okay, well, instead of having to worry about the microphone placement and all that, I can do that all with the software, so let's go with this route instead. I've already recorded all the bass guitar parts. I just plugged the bass direct into my instrument input jack that goes into the computer through USB port. So, yeah, I don't run effects on the bass. I just play the bass raw and live. Don't really need any additional effects normally. So the bass guitar parts were already recorded. The synthesizer parts, the drum beats were all recorded. So integrated a few samples into it. So fleshed a few things out here and there. I messed with the sample library on Mixcraft to do a couple of the songs on the album, just some pieces to kind of bridge everything together so it flows into the next song. Because it does tell a story. I did write some lyrics I might be using for one of the songs, but I am not sure if I'm going to do that. I mean, I do have this really nice bitchin' microphone I just got right here, so it's a possibility. I'm going to want to use all the equipment I've got, you know, in the time between Tech Noir and starting this new album. I've bought an ESP Explorer. I have this Les Paul bass. I also picked up a Spectre bass, and I still have the Stag V using the M Audio Venom. And I also got the Dave Smith Mofo, so, you know, upgraded the gear quite a bit in between the albums, and I'm really comfortable and familiar with all of these. I was able to kind of integrate them together and get the sound that I was going for. It's not perfectly in tune with what I heard in my head, but that's what I'm working on right now, the post-production, the mastering, and all that, while I'm moving from one song to the next. And then there's that question in my head of, you know, we're going to do vocals on this one, and I think there might be one or two songs, but I'm liking the instrumental format. It leaves a lot more to the imagination. Everyone has their own interpretation of what the song meaning is from the title and the flow of the music. Yeah, I feel it just it hits people differently that way, and I don't really want to force the narrative on them. I feel that when you feel the music, it kind of tells you the story. It's kind of a hippie-ish kind of sounding thing, but I feel that the way the music hits you kind of drives the story better than I can probably put it into words. I know what I feel when I hear it, and then when I play it back for other people and they tell me what they feel when they hear these songs, it's like, okay, well, apparently this instrumental format is working even with the concept album idea, so pretty excited with the reactions I've gotten so far. Of course, they're going to be pretty biased opinions because they're people that know me directly, but you know, I find that there's a lot more honesty from people that I know, because they know that I want that honesty, and if they don't give it to me, then I'm going to be pretty pissed off, and they're going to hear about it, and no one likes to listen to me cry and whine and bitch about all that. So most people want to keep that down to a minimum. So it's been really interesting for me with this album has been, I went back to using a computer for the recording. The last 3, 4, 5 recordings that I've done, I was using an older Roland Porta Studio, and just plugging the instruments in there, recording everything, and then later on just dubbing it off through the microphone input on a computer, and doing the mixing and mastering from there. It was already pre-mixed on the Porta Studio, so not a whole lot of work needed. Mostly just balancing out the levels, adjusting the stereo pans, and excuse me for that little burp that came out there. So I wanted to create something new. Most of my stuff has that lo-fi, low budget sounding quality. That's kind of what I was shooting for. And I'm not necessarily shooting for a big budget sound, but I wanted something that had a little bit more of a punch to it. Because there's so much that you lose in translation that people might not necessarily get because of the lo-fi sound quality to it. I do that to create an atmosphere, but then, people are like, oh, well, you're just using garbage equipment. No, I'm not using garbage equipment. It is antiquated type of equipment, if I pronounced that word correctly. Yeah, please forgive me if I did not. I use stuff that isn't new because I find it has more character, but decided moving forward, it's time for a new chapter in Mekanikal Soul. I've cut myself loose from a lot of demons. I was going through a pretty heavy phase with my depression, and I was drinking really heavily, a lot more than I should have been. So now that demon's kind of off my back, it's time to change things up and go in a new direction. Not necessarily reinventing stuff, but refining it and building on what I've learned from the past, and instead of just going for that, okay, so here we're going to be punchy, we're going to be raw, and it's going to be in your face, it's going to be really loud. It's like, okay, well, let's do some stuff that's kind of refined sounding, it's well produced, has a little bit of a slickness to it, but I still want it to have that mechanical sound. The name of the project is Mekanikal Soul, so without that mechanical sound to it, it's just not what I want. So it's still that mechanical sound, but it's a little crisp, it's a little fresh, and it has a little bit more life than usual to it, It's not, some upbeat affair by any means, but, apparently Alexa decided to cut me off there. So, I think I got the gist of what I was trying to explain there out. So, pretty much walked you through the reason for the album being a little bit of a departure, but at the same time, still continuing in not that different of a direction. It's just, I feel it's just being done a little bit better, and bringing the bass guitar back into the mix really fleshes it out a lot, It gives it a groove, it gives it a different feeling, because my first instrument was the bass guitar, so bringing that back in was kind of exciting, because it was like, okay, well, I haven't played one of these in years. I saw the Spectre, and it was the right price at the time, so I bought the Spectre, and it just sounded so good, it was so fun to play, and I was writing all kinds of cool stuff with it, and I was, going back through playing some old songs, but like Mayhem, really early Metallica, the Cliff Burton stuff, and it was really cool. It was a new experience because it had been so long, but in the years in between, I've picked up so much, from different bands I was in and playing the guitar and learning more on the synthesizers, just becoming a better songwriter, and then integrating all that knowledge back onto my first instrument, and it just, everything just fell right into place with the bass. I hear it in my head, just go right to playing it. It's second nature. There's some of these synthesizer drum grooves going on. So that was cool. It really gives a much fuller sound, and it made me feel a little bit more confident in the sound because there's more going on. If you sit there and listen to some of my albums, go back through it, and listen to it, and re-listen to it, there's usually a lot going on, but yeah, it's stuff you have to listen to repeatedly to kind of like, oh wait, what's this? You'll hear something kind of in the background, and then yeah, it's a multi-listen experience, and I still wanted that, but you know, a different way of doing it, where it's like, okay, well, you're gonna re-listen to it because, well, that bass groove is killer. I want to hear that again. He didn't play that long enough. That's how I feel when I listen back. It's like, man, I should have played that longer. But like, well, but then I want it to have. I don't want to overdo it either. So it's like, okay, well, sometimes less is more. Maybe I think I should have played that riff another, 5 minutes. The song should have been another 10 minutes long. I should have played that riff at least 5 more minutes of it. It's like, just because I think that's cool doesn't mean other people do, and that's why, I burn a couple copies of these albums when I'm close to finishing them, playing them back for people and getting feedback and opinions. So yeah, I'm getting really close to that point. It's just one or two more songs I need to do the guitar parts for, and with the bass guitar parts already done, that really helps map out what I can and can't do on the guitar instead of having to shape everything else around. Okay, well, this is what I'm going to do on the guitar, and then you get done listening to it, and I'm like, well, this isn't really a guitar format music. It's a rhythm driven. It's really rhythm driven. So yeah, there's supposed to be crunchy guitars. There's supposed to be some leads, but it's not supposed to be right in your face. It's supposed to be like there as a functioning fluid part of it, not the driving force. And so kind of having the guitars in the back seat and let the bass kind of lead it, along with the synthesizers and the drums. And yeah, overall it's just rhythm, and then once all the rhythm's in place and where it should be, then let's add a little bit to it, and it's made it a little bit more fun too, because like, okay, what do I get to do here, and then just building everything on top of it instead of just forcing it into place. It's yeah, those albums like Redemption Denied, Doomed to Oblivion, fucking, Doomed at Birth, and such uplifting titles. But those were usually like the guitar was right here. Whoa. No, I wasn't like Yngwie Malmsteen by any means. I'm nowhere near that kind of a guitarist, whether it be the talent or the just okay, I'm in the front, that's not me. So yeah, it's a one-man show. Everything is me, so there's no need to force anything to the front. So I don't want to have it be some egotistical jack-off session. That'd be pretty boring to me. Because yeah, there's other guys that do that great. I already mentioned Yngwie Malmsteen and Steve Vai and all those guitar guys, shred metal guitarists, and the more modern guys, you got Steve Totman and Herman Lee from Dragon Force. There's always the power metal guys doing that stuff, and then there's the guys that are from the shred metal era that's still around. There's already dudes doing that. I don't really need to contribute to that, and I am not the guy to do that anyway. I don't want to sit there and play those light and fast licks. It's not my groove. I mean, it's fun to do once in a while, but I don't have the technical skill to sit there and do that for an hour straight. I don't have the technical skills to do it for like 10 or 15 minutes straight. I mean, I don't think that a 10-minute guitar solo is fun. I think a nice little, not necessarily 10-second, spend more than a couple minutes. A lot of a lot of people are bored with that unless they're hardcore metal fans, and this isn't hardcore metal. You know, there's a lot of electronics involved, and there's a lot of along with the electronics, there's samples. You know, it's a lot more on the industrial side than the metal side most of the time. I mean, yeah, the elements are always there, but the mix is changing from song to song. But I try to have it more electronic based, just because that's where I shine, is with the electronics. The string instruments, yeah, I'm good with them. I'm definitely, though, much more of a synthesizer, keyboard, drum machine kind of guy, and producer too, you know. And so the production is really important on this one to get the balance right, because it fluctuates a lot. Okay, this song is bass guitar driven. Okay, this one's synthesizer driven. This one's gonna have a mean guitar riff in it, you know. But I want it to shine in its own way where everything flows into each other. You don't want it to just sound like it's just been cobbled together and just roll the dice and see what happens. That's not cool. You know, if people are gonna stream this or possibly buy it, or, you know, just listen to it in general, it's like, okay, well, it has to have substance. It needs to sound a certain way, not just, okay, well, here you go, enjoy. There needs to be some care put into it. Otherwise, I'm wasting my time, and you're wasting your time listening to it. But so I guess this is going on a lot longer than I anticipated this little sit down rambling off to myself session go. But well, in closing, I'd just like to say, you know, I put a lot of work into this. I've been spending a lot of time over the years doing this project, and now this album, just, I don't know, I think I've come up with something really special and unique here, not necessarily as a whole, but to me personally, and for this Iowa music scene that I'm a part of. There's not a lot of bands using heavy electronics, and, you know, there's Astral Space, and I know there's a band from like Iowa City, but I can't think of their name off the top of my head. But you know, there's Screaming Mechanical Brain from Minneapolis. Yeah, and you got Caustic in Wisconsin. But as far as, you know, the section of Iowa that I'm in is pretty much me and the guys in Astral Space. And other than that, I don't think there's really too many guys using synthesizers. Not many that I know of, anyway. So, thank you for listening to me out here, and I would really like to get some feedback on what you think of the recording so far. So, thank you, and have a great weekend.